Friends, welcome to the 88th session of Legal Empowerment Through Interaction lecture series. Today we have a wonderful speaker. She is the principal judge of the family court Nanded in Maharashtra. Swati A. Chauhan will be addressing us today on the topic issue of the maintenance during COVID times. We are privileged by the presence of Justice Ramkumar and all of you, wonderful participants who were there with us throughout the journey of this discovery and empowerment. This being a thoroughly informal session, directly over to you, ma'am, for the presentation.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. Today's interaction is on the issue of maintenance during COVID-19. We are aware of the fact that due to pandemic situation in our nation, everything, including the courts, are facing challenge of functioning in a regular schedule. But we are also aware of the fact that life goes on, and therefore fulfillment of the basic want to survive this pandemic is the most essential requirement of the vulnerable class. The topic of maintenance during COVID-19 therefore draws attention of courts and lawyers. Various studies and researchers have confirmed that women are more affected by natural disasters than men, since women lack the skill and techniques of effective emergency response. Single women, deserted and destitute women, women with children are at greater risk. Men are typically better prepared to respond to emergencies due to better physical readiness. Therefore, problem of women in broad context of pandemic, disaster, emergencies need a special address. Vulnerability of women is a widely accepted fact in almost all the communities over globe. Now, in Nehru-Nisa versus Sayyid Habib, the Karnataka High Court referred a verse in context to Indian scenario, and which is so very important to mention here, to explain the dependency status of women in India. Now here we are not talking about the tip of the iceberg, but we are talking about the bottom, where we know that in our society, in our community, in our nation, majority women are vulnerable and dependent on their husbands or fathers. The verse mentioned in the Nehru-Nisa judgment says that Pita rakshati kumare, Bharata rakshati yauvane, Putra rakshati vruddhapaye, na stri swatantaram arhatahi. This is in Sanskrit, which means a woman is protected by her father in her childhood, her husband protects her in youth, and in old age, she should be protected by her son. At no stage in her life should a woman be left alone and destitute. She deserves protection by man at every stage of life. We can see that vulnerability of women is primarily cultural and organizational. We can minimize this vulnerability if adequate measures and assistance, physical and legal protections are provided to women in time of need and despair. The maintenance is a measure which achieves social justice and is especially enacted under the law to protect women, children, and parents when they are unable to maintain themselves. And it falls within the constitutional sweep under Article 12, subclause 3, Article 15, subclause 3, and also Article 39, which is for social justice under Constitution of India. COVID-19 has affected everyone including men, women, children, and senior citizens. Nation is under lockdown. Functioning of court is restricted to urgent and emergency matters. In this situation of pandemic and lockdown, the need of maintenance for destitute women and children continue to exist. We must consider that due to lockdown, the needs are not under lockdown. In fact, the needs have increased. The responsibility of the provider has increased. One of the most disturbing facts which I observe as a family court judge in last few months is that even despite this devastating situation, financial crumble, still the husband and the fathers in many of the cases choose to take the excuse of COVID-19 choose to take defense of COVID-19 to avoid paying maintenance to their wives and children who are in need. In fact, they have conveniently stopped coming to the court or paying maintenance to their children and wives. So as of now, we do not have any precedents of the apex court or high court which lay the governing ratio of maintenance and its recovery in the pandemic and the lockdown situation. So now what we have to do in this situation is to explore the thematic scheme of maintenance to answer this situation which has arisen due to pandemic and lockdown. So at this point of time, when we don't have any such specific precedent or specific law, or we have to use whatever the law is available and have to give it a proper interpretation, I would like to rely on a quotation given by Benjamin and Cardozo in The Nature of Judicial Process. He said that the social context of judging has also been recognized in the legal maxim. I'll try to pronounce it in a correct way. It is at res magis valet quam privit, which means where alternative constructions are possible, the court must give effect to which will be responsible for smooth working of the system for which purpose the statute has been enacted, rather than the one which will put a roadblock in its way. So basically, this quotation says that, and we understand the concept of maintenance is like this. Maintenance is a benevolent provision of law, and therefore it has, in the situation of this pandemic and the lockdown, it has to be interpreted by keeping in sight only benevolence of the beneficiaries. Now, in many cases, I remember many cases of Justice Roshan Dadvi of Bombay High Court, who also was the guardian judge of family courts, and she has very nicely explained the concept of maintenance in almost all the cases where the wife is seeking maintenance from the husband. And the gist of this is the basic concept of law of maintenance was introduced due to the situation where a spouse who is not independent financially, then the other spouse do have a responsibility to help him or her in order to make the living of the weaker spouse possible. The reason has been that the maintenance should be able to provide the needy party to live a life with dignity and to not have to face vagrancy. Now, under the law, we have provisions of maintenance in procedural as well as personal laws. The objective of Section 125 of CRPC is to achieve a social purpose and to prevent vagrancy and destitution. Now, if we go to the personal laws, it can be Hindu law, Muslim law, Christian. The principles of any personal law have developed in an evolutionary way out of concern for all those subject to it, so as to make fair provision against destitution. The manifest purpose is to achieve the social objective of making bare minimum provision to sustain. Its foundation spring is humanistic. Now again, with this background, if we come to the present scenario of COVID-19 outbreak, which is impacting on everybody's life, and as we are still under lockdown, the financial consequences of this pandemic continue to grow. We cannot close eyes to the reality that the majority of small businesses now closed, employees terminated, or are facing reduction in salary and similar other financial problems. In these trying times, paying or receiving spousal maintenance during the coronavirus lockdown has become so uncertain. Now, normally when the court grants maintenance to a wife in normal circumstances, it is about 25% of husband's net salary. The Supreme Court in Kalyan Chowdhury versus Rita Chowdhury has held that 25% of husband's net salary would be just and proper as maintenance to wife. Now, in the same judgment, there are two remarkable observations made by the Supreme Court. which I will reproduce here because that will apply now in the pandemic and lockdown situation when we are at a stage where we want to see that the wife gets maintenance from her husband. Um, the two remarkable observations are the amount of permanent alimony awarded to the wife must be befitting the status of the party and the capacity of the spouse to pay the maintenance. So always the capacity of the spouse has is a guiding line when the quantum of the maintenance is fixed for wife and children. So the capacity of the husband has to be considered by the courts in all eventuality. The second remarkable observation made by the Supreme Court in this judgment is that maintenance is always dependent on the factual situation of the case, and the court would be justified in molding the claim of maintenance based on various factors. So now, as a family court judge, I see that there are provisions under procedural as well as personal laws, and in various judgments, the one which we have referred now is that maintenance, quantum of maintenance can be molded. It can be increased, so also it can be decreased. So in this situation, I foresee that when the courts will start, there will be avalanche of applications for reduction of maintenance taking the defense of COVID-19. So one of the questions which I have framed here today, and I will answer it, is what can the courts do about spousal maintenance during COVID virus and the lockdown pursuant to it? To start with, as I said, various applications will pour in the court requesting that the maintenance order be cancelled because the husband has no source of income or his source of income has reduced or there is lockdown or he has been terminated. Now, upon receiving such applications, the court has power under the law either to increase, either to decrease, or to stop or temporarily suspend the maintenance payment. Now, this is the call we have to take, and we have to see as judges and lawyers that before cancelling the maintenance order on request of the husband, it is necessary to see the real facts on which the husband is claiming that his maintenance be reduced. And it is also very much important to see that what the law says about the duty of the husband when we are talking about maintenance. So in Shanta versus B.G. Shivanjappa, the Supreme Court held that monthly allowance is paid in order to enable the wife and child to live by providing with the essential economic necessities. Neither the neglected wife nor the neglected child can live without funds for purchasing food and essential articles to enable them to survive. Now, needless to say that this is the critical time of pandemic where survival of the destitute and deserted wife and children is at stake. So the question is, in such circumstances, what is the duty of the husband? So this judgment says that it is the duty of the husband to provide the neglected child and the neglected wife with essential economic necessities. So the husband's duty in the pandemic and the lockdown period increases rather than as it is thought that it will decrease because his source of income has decreased maybe. Similarly, in Rajesh, this is very important. In Rajesh versus Sunita, the Punjab and Haryana High Court observed that the first and foremost duty of the husband is to maintain the wife and the child. He may beg, borrow, or steal. Now, beg, borrow, or steal is a phrase. So, the intention of using this phrase in the judgment is to make it very, very clear that whatever the circumstances may be, the husband will not be exempted from his responsibility of providing maintenance to wife and children. Now, going by this legal understanding, the lockdown situation cannot be taken as an excuse or defense to not pay maintenance. Per contra, the responsibility of the husband increases during the disaster time. So after these two judgments, whether Punjab and Haryana High Court has said that the husband may beg, borrow, or steal, but cannot say no to pay maintenance to his wife and children. And as in the earlier judgment, the Honorable Supreme Court has said that it is the duty of the husband to provide essential economic necessities to the wife and child, we can safely conclude here that a woman's right to maintenance is a personal obligation so far as the husband is concerned, and it is his duty to maintain her even if he has no property, no business, no employment. It is well settled that under the law, both personal and procedural, that the husband is under obligation to maintain his wife. So we have seen the duty of the husband in pandemic. It does not, it cannot, in fact, COVID-19 situation cannot be taken as an excuse or defense by the husband to say that I am unable to pay maintenance. In all eventualities, the husband cannot be exempted from his duty to pay maintenance to his wife and children who are dependent on him. Now, I also see another situation where in this COVID-19 pandemic, a woman who has earlier waived her maintenance or alimony may come and knock the doors of the court seeking maintenance. Now, as a family court judge, a lot of cases are disposed of by consent. Uh, all of you here must be knowing that while mutual consent divorce, or generally the wife agrees to waive her maintenance, and on this term itself, the husband is ready for going for mutual consent divorce. So there are many cases where the women even go to the extent of waiving the children's maintenance and takes the responsibility of maintaining her children only to go for mutual consent divorce. So in such circumstances, if by consent, if a divorce has happened between the parties, and in the said consent, the wife has agreed to waive her maintenance. Now, what will happen to her in this pandemic situation and the lockdown situation? Is she unable to come to the court? Can she come to the court, or cannot she come to the court? We see here in this judgment of Ramchandra Lakshman Kamble versus Shobha Kamble of Bombay High Court, it was held that at any agreement wherein the wife waives her right to claim maintenance under Section 125 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, it is opposed to public policy, hence it is not enforceable. It was observed by the court that the consent decrees made by the court are in effect of nothing but contract with legal seal of the court superadded to it. Accordingly, if the term of the contract is itself opposed to public policy, then such term is void and unenforceable. Now, in some cases, the husband may come to the court and say that there was no force, there was no coercion on the wife to give consent to waive maintenance. She has voluntarily waived her maintenance. So in such circumstances, again, there is a judgment of Bombay High Court, wherein it is held that there are several rulings taking the view that an agreement in which the wife gives up or relinquishes her right to claim maintenance at any time in future is opposed to public policy, and therefore such an agreement, even if voluntarily entered, is not enforceable. The High Court in its judgment cited another judgment which said that the statutory right of a wife for maintenance cannot be battered, done away with, or negated by the husband by setting up an agreement to the contrary. Statutory right of the wife for maintenance cannot be permitted to battered away or infringed by setting up an agreement to not to claim maintenance. Such a clause in the agreement would be void under Section 23 of Indian Contract Act, being opposed to public policy. So there may be cases where earlier the wife has waived her maintenance pre-COVID, but post-COVID, if she is in need, if she has lost her job, or she is in financial need, she's post-COVID, pre-COVID, if she has voluntarily waived her maintenance, post-COVID, she can still come to the court and claim maintenance, and which the court will have to hear and decide on that. Now, there may be a situation where a wife against whom a decree of divorce has already been passed on account of her deserting her husband, and she comes to the court. Now there is a divorce. The wife has deserted the husband. Divorce has been already granted by the court. The wife has, as the wife herself has visited the husband, at the time of passing the judgment, she is not granted any permanent alimony, or pending the litigation, she was not given any interim maintenance. Now, post-COVID, she comes, or during the COVID situation, she comes to the court and seeks maintenance. Now, in such circumstances, what will be the situation? So, normally, in such situation, when the wife has deserted the husband, pursuant to which a divorce decree is there, is normally the husband would take the defense of section 125(4) of CRPC. Section 125(4) of CRPC reads as under that no wife entitled under this section to get maintenance if she is living in adultery or without any sufficient reason she refuses to live with her husband or they have mutually separated. So if this situation arises, what will be the answer? And I could find a judgment in this regard, and it is Rohtash Singh versus Ramendri, wherein the Supreme Court has held that women after divorce become destitute. If she cannot maintain herself and remains unmarried, the man who was once her husband continues to be under a legal duty and obligation to provide maintenance to her. So now the thing is, the situation is clear that even if the divorce decree is granted on the ground of desertion, then, and she has waived her maintenance, she has not got any maintenance from the court. Post COVID, she can come to the court and still she has a right to claim maintenance from her husband. The only condition is he is unmarried and she is not living in adultery. If these two conditions are fulfilled, even after divorce, the wife can come to the court and seek maintenance. There's a similar such other judgment in Manoj Kumar versus Champa Devi. The Supreme Court upheld the order passed by the High Court of Himachal Pradesh, whereby the court had ordered the husband in the case to grant maintenance to his deserted and divorced wife. In this case, the husband has contended that as the decree of divorce has been passed, he was under no obligation to pay maintenance to the wife as contemplated under section 124, 125 subclause 4 of CRPC. However, the High Court held that a divorced woman continues to enjoy the status of wife for claiming maintenance under section 125 of CRPC. So now it is pretty clear that even if there is a divorce and the wife has not taken maintenance at the time of divorce, post-COVID, she can still come to the court if she is in need and if she is facing vagrancy, and the husband cannot deny. He is under obligation, he is under personal obligation to provide maintenance to such wife, divorced wife, if that woman has not remarried and she is not living in adultery. Similar other situation arise when there is no divorce, but there is an decree of judicial separation between the parties, and the wife has at that time when the judicial separation order was passed chose to waive her maintenance. But now she realizes that in this situation of pandemic and lockdown, she needs some monetary relief to survive. What is the solution? We also find this settled position in Sanju Devi versus State of Bihar, where the Supreme Court remarked that if a divorced wife is entitled for maintenance, then there is no reason why a wife who is judicially separated is not entitled for maintenance. So now we have seen that the wife who has deserted the husband and has taken a decree of divorce but has waived maintenance can still come to the court and seek maintenance if she is facing financial crunch. So divorce and judicial separation will not bar a woman in this pandemic situation to not come to the court, or the husband will not be able to take the defense of section 125 subclause 4 of CRPC. Now there is another situation as a family court judge, which I see day in, day out in the courts, that the husband says that the wife herself is earning. She has independent source of income, and therefore she is not entitled for maintenance. Yes. So normally a deserted woman, to make her both ends meet, takes up job of tailoring or beauty parlor or cooking, or she works as a domestic maid. Now, does these these type of work will be taken as independent and stable source of earning for a wife? No. The Supreme Court in the case of Sunita Kachwa and Anil Kachwa held that in any event, merely because the wife was earning something, it would not be a ground to reject her claim for maintenance. So petty work like doing work of beauty parlor or doing work of tailoring or maybe working in someone's house as a maid cannot be taken as an independent source of earning to refuse her to refuse or to deny her maintenance when she's coming to the court. Now, thus, the court further held that the applicant is entitled for maintenance from the husband even if the applicant still carries on the business of beauty parlor and training center and earns some income out of the said business. Now, in this case, Sunita Kachwa versus Anil Kachwa, it seems the wife was working in a beauty parlor and a training center, and maybe she was earning some salary, but still, the court said that this cannot be taken as a steady and independent source of earning. And she is still, even if she is working in the beauty parlor, she is still entitled to claim and get maintenance. Now, this judgment, Sunita Kachwa versus Anil Kachwa, came in the year 2014, but it squarely applies in this COVID-19 pandemic situation. This judgment further held that, and I quote, in this era of inflationary economy, where the prices of the commodities and services are increasing day by day, the income from the business of beauty parlor, which has an element of seasonality, may not be sufficient to support the livelihood of the applicant. So now a woman is working in a beauty parlor, and in the lockdown, the beauty parlors are closed from March, April, May, June, July, and we don't know till how long the beauty parlors and the spa salons will be closed down. Lot of services, hospitality services. Maybe the wife is working as a waitress, and the hotels are shut down now due to the pandemic and the lockdown. Nobody there is no certainty when the hotels and the beauty parlors and the spa salons will open. So at this point of time, she does not have any source of income. So this judgment comes to the help of the wife, in which the Honorable Supreme Court has very nicely explained that such petty businesses, which has an element of seasonality, may not be sufficient to support the livelihood of the applicant, and in that case, the woman still can come to the court and seek maintenance, and which needs to be allowed. So, merely because the wife is capable of earning, it is not a reason either to deny maintenance or to reduce the maintenance awarded to her. For example, a quantum of maintenance is allowed to a wife. Now,
some audio problem. Hello, we are not able to hear you.
One second. Sir, I think that is something to do with the network issue.
Oh.
there is an application in the court that is working.
Ma'am, you were incommunicado for some time because of network issue, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Last 1 minute, rather 1 minute.
Okay, I'll repeat.
Yeah. May I make one more request, ma'am? If possible, in the chat column, all are asking for the citation also. If along with the nominal index, if possible, could you please provide the citation of the decisions also?
Okay. So do I have to type? I may not
No. You need only mention. You need only mention that we'll typing all we'll do. No issue.
Okay.
As and when the nominal index or the name of the parties are said, if possible, ma'am, please cite the citation so that
citation. Okay. So the
Journal.
last one.
No. Whatever
Journal.
is available. That's all.
Journal
Yes.
citation.
Okay. So the last citation which I was mentioning here was Sunita Kachwa versus Anil Kachwa. It is 2014 DMC 878 Supreme Court.
Okay.
All right. And before that, I think I mentioned the judgment of Rohtash Singh versus Ramendri. It was 2000, Volume 3, FCC 180, Supreme Court. I don't know. I have not written cite. It's in my other notes. Maybe later I can provide. Is that okay?
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. I think I'll have to repeat from, maybe I was not audible, so.
Not necessarily. It is only for a while,
Okay,
short while.
all right. So now the situation is, merely because the wife is capable of earning, it cannot be a reason to reduce the maintenance awarded to her. So I think I said the example that already a wife is given some quantum of maintenance by an order of the court. But in spite of that, because she is unable to maintain herself in the set quantum of maintenance which is allowed to her by the court, she takes up a job. Now, will that additional work which she is doing to add to her living can be a reason to reduce or cancel her maintenance? This is a situation where the Supreme Court held in Shailaja versus Kobanna uh, said that merely because the wife is capable of earning is not a reason to reduce the maintenance awarded to her, and said that whether a wife is capable of earning and is actually earning are two different factors. So see, as a family court judge, I've always been uh, deciding cases of maintenance, and there's a judgment of Mamta Jaiswal versus State of Rajasthan, in which there was observation that as the wife is educated, she holds her degree, and she is not working, and therefore she is capable of working, and she is therefore, in that case, not entitled to get maintenance from her husband. So that cannot that citation came in a specific with specific facts. It can be distinguished. Suppose in that case the wife was MBA and she had an experience in past of working. Now there are cases where the wife is 10th pass or 12th pass, or maybe she's a graduate, but when she was in the final year of her graduation, she got married, and then she was all her life a housewife. She has never gone out, though she holding a degree. She never went out to work. So Mamta Jaiswal in this circumstances will not apply. It will have to be distinguished. So this is what the Supreme Court has said in Shailaja versus Khobanna, that uh, capable of earning and is actually earning are two different factors, and it will be based on the facts and circumstances of each case to decide that what education, what degree she is. Now, in one case, I remember when I was family court judge in Pune, the couple was in the age group of around 50 to 55, and the husband was denying to pay maintenance to the wife, saying that she's a postgraduate. Now he also produced her academic credentials on record to show that she was MCom. Now when I saw that which year she was MCom, she passed MCom in the year somewhere 95 or 96, and this was 2017. Now when I asked, okay, after 2000, after 1997, after you were MCom, did you work anywhere? She said no. Then she produced a typing certificate where the wife knows typing and she can go and type and earn her livelihood. I said, okay, she has given. I asked the wife, you have given the exam of 40 seats something, but have you worked anywhere? She said, no, I just gave the exam, but after that, I've never done any typing. So in such circumstances, the husband was trying to rely on Mamta Jaiswal was the state of Rajasthan, and was trying to impress upon me that she is an educated postgraduate lady with a skilled some certificate of typing, and so she's not entitled for maintenance. But then I distinguished. I said, oh, okay, okay, she's graduate, she's double graduate, but Mamta Jaiswal judgment will not be applicable in this case because she's always been a housewife from last 20 years. She has not gone out and worked. So she has not utilized her degree, and her degree after 20 years has become redundant along with her age also. She was in the age group of 50 now. It was not expected that she will go out and search for a work at this age. And I allowed her maintenance. So I think we have guidelines and we have to distinguish based on the circumstances. And herein after this COVID-19 pandemic, we will have to all these judgments will be, we have to distinguish and see that what effect the COVID-19 is creating on the wife and children, who maybe are capable of, who the wife is capable of earning but has no job, and then accordingly will have to take the decision logically. So there's again one judgment of High Court of Kerala, Alfonso Joseph versus Anand Joseph, wherein the court remarked that maintenance to wife can't be rejected on the ground that he is earning. The right of wife and child to receive maintenance is indefeasible, and the respondent husband has no right to dictate terms. Now, in day-to-day working, I have come across many such cases where the husband, once the divorce petition is filed, or if the wife comes for maintenance, immediately the husband leaves their job. And a resignation letter is filed in the court saying that I have resigned the job or I have been terminated from my job. Now they go to the extent of transferring their properties in the name of the mother, brother, father to avoid give share to the wife. So I came across one, I don't have this citation, but I was reading some article and in which the Supreme Court has commented that sudden drop in husband's wealth after divorce. The Supreme Court said that don't leave job because wife is seeking maintenance. Now, in this, a bench of Justice D.Y. Chandrachud and Justice Hemant Gupta refused to interfere with the order passed by the Andhra Pradesh High Court directing a doctor to pay interim maintenance to his estranged wife when the doctor said, I am leaving my job and I have no source of income. So the Supreme Court observed that a Hyderabad-based doctor working in a reputed hospital was leaving the job just because his estranged wife was seeking maintenance. So the bench observed, nowadays, as soon as wives seek maintenance, husband starts saying that he is living in penury and has gone insolvent. So the Supreme Court said you don't leave the job just because your wife is seeking maintenance. And this situation I have seen in all the stations. It's not in Bombay or Pune, but in small stations like Nanded also, where the husband's salary is 25,000, 30,000. He just to avoid paying maintenance to the wife, he's ready to leave his job, resign his job, and sit idle. And in especially uh, the husband, those who are graduate or have done something in computers, they leave the job and they start working from home and try to create any evidence of their try to conceal the evidence of their source of income by working from. The apex court in Ketanov decisions has held that the concept of sustenance does not necessarily mean to live the life in penury and roam around for basic maintenance. The wife is entitled under law to lead a life in the same manner as she would have lived in the house of her husband, with respect and with dignity. The husband is not entitled to contend that he is not prepared to pay any maintenance, and the courts are not expected to accept the blatant refusal of the husband with folded hands. If the court decides to deny maintenance to the wife or pay lesser amounts than claimed, it can only be on legally permissible reasons and not on the strength of a memo filed by the husband. Now we can see that the court has enormous flexibility to vary spousal maintenance payments. So that it is important to note that the court can vary spousal maintenance if the party can demonstrate a change in their circumstances, which is not temporary, but which has immediate, long-term or permanent financial consequences to justify the change. So the court is empowered to reduce the maintenance, to increase the maintenance, to stop the maintenance, to suspend the maintenance. But after appreciating all the cases we discussed here today, if one comes to a conclusion that there is need to alter or reduce the quantum of maintenance before passing any such order of reduction or suspending maintenance, a checklist has to be prepared, such as proof of the change of circumstances, for example, documentary evidence of layoff, termination, removal from service, non-payment of salary, etc. Even if such unfortunate situation has arisen where the husband has been terminated, we cannot forget that as the maintenance is a social obligation of the husband, he will have to provide maintenance to his wife and children in all eventualities. Now, there are numerous cases where we see that the wife is advised to file application for maintenance under Section 125. After a while, she is advised to file an application for maintenance under Domestic Violence Act. It does not stop there. She is also advised to file application under personal law. So there are 3-4 different applications under different law filed by the wife, and then the husband comes and challenges that she is claiming maintenance under different laws, so it should be dismissed. So in such situation, I place my reliance on this Prakash Babulal Dangi versus State of Maharashtra. In this case, application was filed under Section 125 of CRPC, and thereafter the wife also filed an application under DV Act, whereby the husband was directed to pay additional maintenance to the wife and daughter respectively. That is, under Section 125, the wife was allowed maintenance, and separately under Domestic Violence Act, the wife was allowed maintenance. In view of the aforesaid circumstances, the Bombay High Court made reference to Section 36 of Domestic Violence Act 2015, which entails that the provisions of the Act shall be in addition to and not in derogation of the provisions of any other law, and held that the amount of maintenance awarded under the Domestic Violence Act cannot be substituted to the order of maintenance under Section 125 of CRPC. So the law has given privilege to the wife to claim maintenance under different laws which are available. Now we also have to be aware of the fact that the settled position of the law that if a woman succeeds in getting multiple orders of maintenance, the husband does not have to pay all these amounts and can pay the larger amount. So if there are order of maintenance under different law, execution of the larger amount can be done, and all other orders of maintenance will be merged into that larger amount, and the execution of the larger amount can be done. I don't remember the citation or the name of the party, but I have relied on that, in which the Supreme Court has said that the maintenance is coming from the pocket of the husband, and the husband has only one pocket. So, if there are 2, 3, 4 orders of maintenance, the husband is liable to pay the larger amount amongst all the orders of maintenance. In one case, the Bombay High Court held that there may be a different enactments providing for maintenance to wife and children, but the objective behind every such provision is to prevent vagrancy and destitution. These provisions cannot be interpreted to mean that the husband can be made to pay the amount awarded under every provision. So now we come to a very interesting and a $1 million question. Can the husband claim maintenance during COVID-19 lockdown from the wife? Because under the personal law, the husband also has a right to claim interim maintenance from wife if he is unable to maintain herself. So if we have to answer this question, that can a husband claim maintenance during COVID-19 lockdown from wife, one word answer would be yes, husband can claim maintenance from wife during COVID-19 lockdown. But there is a provided clause in this. A husband can claim maintenance. However, the courts have time and again remarked that maintenance is to be paid to husband only if he is incapable or if he is handicapped. In the case of Nivya versus V.M. Shiva Prasad, again this is the Kerala High Court judgment. Yeah, where the Kerala High Court, yes,
able-bodied man.
Yeah,
he's able-bodied.
Yeah, there were 2-3 judgments, and I selected the Kerala one. So the Kerala High Court dismissed the husband's claim for maintenance from his wife, holding that the maintenance under Section 24 of Hindu Marriage Act is to be paid to the husband only when he is able to prove his incapability or that he is handicapped. The court also observed that in absence of such circumstances, as enumerated above, endowing maintenance on the husband would only promote idleness. The court also remarked that a husband seeking maintenance from the wife can be treated only as exceptional case, as normally he has got the liability or obligation to maintain the wife, and vice versa is only an exception. Now, especially at this time of COVID-19, it needs to be reinforced that maintenance order is not a penalty or it is not a punishment for the husband. So when we are taking legal steps to recover maintenance, one has to bear in mind that at this point of time, harsh mode of execution will not serve the purpose of justice. Now, I remember a case where in the month of March, before the lockdown was announced, it was in the first week of March, where we were just hearing that yes, something is happening in China and it may come to India, but we didn't knew that okay, it's at our doorstep. And it was in the first week of March that I passed an order of sending the husband to jail in lieu of, because he has not paid the maintenance. So in lieu of the arrears of maintenance, he was sent for imprisonment for 3 months. And after I passed this order, within 10 days, the lockdown started and the functioning of the court was very limited. So after a week, I remembered, okay, this man is in jail, and what do we do? There's no purpose, keeping this man in jail in this lockdown and pandemic situation. So what I did was I tried to contact his lawyer. I asked the registrar of my court to call the lawyer and ask that whether he's ready to pay. If he's ready to pay, then okay, whatever he pays, I'll release him. But the situation was such that the lawyer told that he is not able to pay anything at this point of time. And unfortunately, he was from some other district. He was not from Nanded district. And so the request came from the lawyer that the family of the man is saying that don't release him, keep him in jail, because otherwise he will not be able to travel and come to Latur. He was from Latur and he was in jail in Nanded. So I tried that. Okay, my intention was to see that if he's saying something, well, if not, I'll release him. But the situation was such that even if he was released, he would wander on the streets in Nanded. So it was better that he was kept in jail. So I think now in the month of May, he's released, and we saw that he went back to his place. So harsh mode is not expected. It's not a punishment that we are giving to a husband who is in arrears of maintenance. It is a social and a personal obligation of the husband to pay. And reasonable in this situation, reasonable time can be given. There are notification of high courts now that okay, while passing any order, adverse order, or say do not pass any harsh order. So we have to see that unnecessarily we are not creating any pressure on the husband, or sending him to jail in COVID-19 is not any answer to this situation. So similarly, in Chaturbhuj versus Sitabai, the Supreme Court said that the object of maintenance proceedings is not to punish a person for his past neglect, but to prevent vagrancy by compelling those who can provide support to those who are unable to support themselves and who have a moral claim to support. So the phrase unable to maintain herself would mean that means available to the deserted wife while she was living with her husband, and would not take within itself the efforts made by the wife after desertion to survive somehow. Section 125 of CRPC is a measure of social justice and is specially enacted to protect women and children, and falls again within the sweep of Article 39 of Constitution of India. Now, to conclude this issue of maintenance during COVID-19, I can say that maintenance provides a basic remedy for the supply of food, clothing, and shelter to the deserted wife. It gives effect to fundamental rights and natural duties of a man to maintain his wife, children, and parents when they are unable to maintain themselves. So all these judgments, and we don't have any citation as of now or precedent of apex court or high court to say that what we can do in pandemic situation. But we have so much rich culture of the judgment of maintenance already available, which we can be very easily apply in this situation and see that the benevolent purpose is reached. So COVID-19 cannot be taken as an excuse or a defense by the husband to avoid paying maintenance to the wife. Maintenance is personal and social obligation of the husband, and in all eventuality, he will have to pay, especially in this disaster and pandemic and lockdown situation. His responsibility increases rather than his responsibility decreases. So there are certain best practices which I would like to share. I don't know how much time I have.
No, you can definitely, please.
Yeah, maybe 10 minutes more.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah. So when the lockdown started um, in the month of March, in the first week, the situation was nobody. I mean, 2, 3 staff, only registrar was going to the court, and then we were seeing that if some urgent matter comes or what the situation is. And gradually by mid-April, we started going to the court, like from 10 to 2, the court started functioning. But the first week was total shutdown, sort of. So during the month of April, now with the help of my staff, I prepared a list of the applications which were pending in the court for recovery of maintenance. Now, the criteria was the application for recovery means the husband has not paid the maintenance, the wife is allowed maintenance, the husband has not paid the maintenance, there is arrears of maintenance, and so the wife, after waiting for about 1 year, has come to the court and she is seeking maintenance. So all these circumstances very, very clearly depict that the wife is in need of maintenance. So around 200 and I think 280 cases I shortlisted from my court, in which the wife was seeking recovery of maintenance, and the recovery was not being done due to various reasons. The husband was not paying, or he was not available, or he was not reachable, or he has left the job. Many reasons. So in that situation, what I did was I personally called the district supply officer of Nanded, because whenever something happens, some disaster happens, there is a lot of charity which happens immediately as an immediate response. So even in our city, in our district, there was a lot of food ration charity done by various institutions and organizations, and this whole charity was lying with the commissioner of Nanded, the municipal commissioner, and the office of district supply officer. So I called the district supply officer and said that, see, I have list of 280 women, and would you please see that this ration kit, which had all the essential things like rice, dal, flour, wheat flour, oil, sugar, tea packets, soap, sanitizers, and biscuit packets, and the ration was like for 2 months, 4 people can eat nicely in that stock. So I requested the district supply officer to provide this kit to this woman. So initially he was very happy. Madam, you are doing very nice job. Send me the list. I'll do it. So we prepared the list and sent and with addresses, and we sent the list to the district supply officer. Now there were a lot of technical things which he needed to fulfill. He said, I want everybody's ration card. I want everybody's Aadhaar card. I said, that is not possible. That it's not possible to procure at this point of time. Contact them, call this all documents, give it to you. So better, if possible, you give me 300 bags of this ration kit in the court, and every day I'll see that 10 to 15 women are called serially, and every day we will distribute this. So he agreed, and around 285 or 95 bags were provided to the court. So what we did was, now another vulnerability of women we could see here is, now on the petition their addresses were not sufficient. Second thing, there were, suppose a mobile number is given, it is not the mobile number of the lady herself, it is of her lawyer or her brother or her maternal uncle or some neighbor. So anyhow, we tried to contact that woman. We initially called the lawyers, those who were not reachable, the women, those who were not reachable, we tried to contact the lawyers. Inform the lawyer that you in further contact the woman and tell her to come to the court on this date at this time and collect her ration kit. So around 1 month, we did this exercise. And I'm happy to share with you today that all the applications which were pending for execution of maintenance, at least during lockdown, I was not able to execute the order of maintenance, but I was able to provide them ration kit, which was sufficient for 2 months. So this I did in the lockdown to see that some relief is given to the women who are in need, um, and the children who are in need. So I think we have to find out ways which we can easily find out in this pandemic situation to reach out to those who need our help. And maintenance is such a thing. Uh, Courts are working only for urgent and emergency matters. Now, me being a family court judge, for me, maintenance is urgent and emergency matters. So I take up these cases. Now, recently I passed an order. I don't know. I think I was right in passing that order. That I passed an order of interim maintenance. It was not ex parte. After hearing both the parties, it was passed. But in that case, the husband was is a government employee. So instead of waiting for the wife to file an execution application to recover this maintenance, in the order of maintenance itself, I passed an order of attachment of his salary, so that immediately, without waiting, he will get the interim maintenance which are passed during this lockdown period. So her visit to court, another visit to court for filing this execution will be curtailed, and she will get the fruit of the order which I passed during this pandemic period. So I think this much is sufficient for maintenance during COVID-19. And if there are any questions, I am ready to answer. And there is
You are
yeah
speaking
in
with a judge with a golden heart. Then
Thank you
proactive
so much.
and finding ways and means of not just rendering decisions or judgments, but seeing that justice is done. That's really wonderful. Over to you, Ramkumar sir, for your comments.
You are absolutely right, Mr. Sham. She is a provider, real provider. No, she not only provided the maintenance, but even provided food packets to the starving and vagrant, destitute women. That is a great gesture, a providential gesture, a good gesture. And the need or necessity for survival is there once you take your birth on Mother Earth. Then whether it is post-COVID or pre-COVID or COVID period, that necessity doesn't come to an end. And of course, the earning capacity of the husband also might have been affected by COVID. That cannot be lost sight of in appropriate cases. But at the same time, a husband has the not only the legal obligation but even a moral obligation to provide food for his wife. And if Kerala High Court has taken the view that if he is an able-bodied man, even if he is remaining unemployed, he has a moral obligation and legal obligation to sustain his wife and small children. Likewise, education of the wife, whether ordinary education or whether professional education, is no guarantee that she has the means to provide herself. Maybe she has the potential to secure a job, but what about the serpentine queue of so many employed, educated graduates waiting for job? So every wife, just because she is employed or even professionally, just because every wife is qualified or even professionally qualified, there's no guarantee that she will get a job and try to maintain herself. And in the case of wife, divorced wife is also included in the definition of wife under explanation, under the clause B2 explanation to section 125. Therefore, even divorced wife is also included in the definition of wife. So she is also entitled to, even in law, without even any judicial verdict, she is entitled to maintenance so long as she remains unmarried. Very wonderful presentation. Anyway, we are all, many of our judicial officers might be benefited by this presentation. Okay.
Thank you, Ramkumar sir. Ma'am, before we go to the interactive session, payment of maintenance. Of course, I'm just having a clinical examination of that, not on the moral or the legal side. Can it be equated to the something like a minimum wages act? I mean, under the minimum wages act, whether your capacity to pay or not is of no consequence. But unless and until you pay the minimum wages, you cannot run a industry under the what do you call labor laws or the industrial jurisprudence.
Yes, the maintenance scheme, if we see, which has been given by the High Court and Supreme Court, is that if a person is able-bodied, if a man is able-bodied, he can, and he has chose to marry, he has chose to marry, and he has also decided to start a family. So, able-bodied man cannot shy away from saying that from his liability, from paying maintenance to his wife and children, saying that I am unemployed, or I don't have any business, or I don't have any income. So the criteria is, if he is an able-bodied man, the presumption is he is under obligation, personal obligation, to provide maintenance to his wife and children.
The second
And as you said, the minimum wages. Suppose there is no evidence before the court that what his earnings are, and maybe he says that I am unemployed, I don't do any work. Then we apply the criteria that okay, he's an able-bodied. If he works according to Minimum Wages Act, he can earn this much amount in this much working hours. So out of it, he would pay this much amount to his wife and children. So that guesswork we have to do, yes, based on the Minimum Wages Act.
To put it simply, you're taken upon yourself a responsibility. Had you not been man enough to take up that responsibility, you ought not to have taken that. Something like that.
Yeah.
And the second aspect, which the doubt is lingering among many, is that the concept of contracting out, the broad principles, I believe through your presentation, we have an idea that it has been incorporated in the sense like the wife says that I don't want any maintenance, just give me divorce.
Yes.
And once that is procured, I mean, there will be situations wherein the husband says that I will give you what do you call divorce only if you forfeit your right of what do you call alimony or the maintenance or whatever it is. But if it was really the other way around, and once the divorce, everything is over, to just get back upon the husband, there will be frivolous petitions also coming for maintenance.
Yeah, but we are.
So, what is the sanctity? My doubt is, what is the sanctity of those agreements which are genuinely made with open eyes by the contracting parties?
Okay. So now when we are talking about this pandemic situation, suppose the wife has gave away or waived her maintenance for taking mutual consent divorce. Husband is not willing to give. So suppose we can say that husband has filed for restitution of conjugal rights, which means he is calling the wife back. But then wife says, okay, I'll waive my maintenance, you give me divorce. For which the husband says, yes, okay, I am ready. Okay, so you're waiving your maintenance, I'm ready to give divorce. Divorce happens. Now this is a radical situation where COVID-19 is there, pandemic is there, and lockdown is there. Now in this special circumstances, if the wife who has waived maintenance 2 years back, say, is in need, now she needs maintenance, she needs some money to survive. Then in that case, the law says that agreement was against public. You can't just, and she has not remarried. That is also one of the requirement, that a woman, after taking divorce, after waiving maintenance, has not remarried and is not living in adultery, is in need. Now, if we see the objectives of maintenance, we see that to prevent stray and to prevent the woman to leave her dignity and live a life of dignity-less life. So to prevent all this situation, she has to be given some monetary support, or else she will have to face very unwanted incidents in the society only to survive. So that should be avoided. And the husband who is under personal obligation has to pay the wife who has still remained unmarried after divorce.
Likewise, in insurance jurisprudence, ma'am, you cannot make profit or business out of insurance. You may have multiple insurances, but for one injury, you cannot just keep on claiming from all the insurance companies. Likewise, there will be different enactments which entitle you to get maintenance. Yes. But like you said, husband only one pocket. So,
Yes.
won't that principle apply in the sense like even in 125, it says that the magistrate can make such orders taking note of the circumstances. Will
Yeah,
it not
yeah,
be
yeah.
one of the circumstances that she's getting maintenance under another enactment or something like that?
Yeah, I'll share you one very fantastic sentence which is used by the lawyers in the court, that husband is not an ATM machine. So you go there, put your card and take out money from him everywhere. So wherever you see ATM machine, you go and insert your card and take out money. So yes, you are right that see, women are advised that okay, you file 125 in the court of magistrate, and you file DV, another DV application in the court of another magistrate. You go to family court and file for maintenance under Section 18 of Hindu Marriage Act. This is the privilege which is allowed by the law to the woman, considering her vulnerable status. That yes, she requires all this, and the criteria of all these laws are different. The yardstick of providing maintenance under 125, it's a summary remedy. Under personal, things are different. DV, again, the yardstick is the different to evaluate the quantum and the need of the wife. So it is a privilege given to the wife. Now, while exercising this privilege, if the court feels that yes, this is excess application made by the wife under different laws, the execution can be merged. I mean, I pass an order. If a maintenance is passed under Section 24 of Hindu Marriage Act, interim maintenance, and after 2-3 months she files 125 and again asks for interim maintenance, I don't allow that. I say that this interim application is merged with the main petition and I'll decide at the end. And suppose 125 she gets, and there's a Hindu marriage petition and interim maintenance, I merge both the orders and I say, oh, you can execute only one order. So
Correct. Earlier, I mean, prior to Act 50 of 2001, when there was a cap in 125, this would have been beautiful in the sense like you would have asked elsewhere. Here, there is no cap now, no, after 2001.
yeah, earlier it was only 500.
Correct.
Under Section 125, only 500 rupees can be, maximum 500 can be granted. Then it came to 1500, and now there is no limit.
Absolutely.
Now there is no limit. So yes, once the court sees that this it's not privilege, but there's some abuse happening, then in that case, the orders of the maintenance passed under different laws can be merged for execution.
Ma'am, we have Nitin with a question. Nitin, please put the question.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Shyam sir, I've got 3 questions on a practical aspect. I've got a question that now, madam, the family courts are only entertaining the urgent matters. That is to say, a mutual consent divorce matter. Regular matters are not coming because the normal courts are not sitting. Now, in this particular situation, how will ensure that maintenance is paid by the so-called husband, which they are having proper income, and they are trying to evade to give the maintenance to the wife, because they will say, oh, we go to the court and we give in the cash or we deposit into the court. So how we will ensure that in this situation, who can pay, they will be liable to make the payment?
All right. See, this situation is difficult for everyone, and this is not normal situation we are facing as of now. So the husband cannot come to the court. The wife is unable to come to the court. But yes, on their behalf, suppose say on the wife of behalf, an application is made that I need maintenance, and as you said, the husband is avoiding. So if the husband is salaried person, salary attachment order can be passed. Now, in every family court, there is a post of marriage counselor attached. So nowadays, Mr. Nitin, the situation you gave me, I also had a similar situation that a woman came to the court and said that my husband is not paying, but he is having some. He was a fruit vendor, I think. So I said, how will he? He said, no, this is essential commodity. So even if there is lockdown, he's selling fruits. He is getting income. His income has not reduced. In fact, he's earning more now in COVID-19 because people are out and buying more fruits. And she was justified giving this reason. So what I did was, I asked my marriage counselor. I asked the wife, do you have his mobile number? She said, yes, I have. Okay, go to the marriage counselor, give your husband's number. So she went to the marriage counselor, and I asked my marriage counselor, who is attached to the family court, to give the husband a call and say that unless you pay, there will be some adverse. When you come, you will not be able to contest this litigation, because now she has told the real fact that you are earning. So you better come and pay whatever. So the moment the marriage counselor called the husband, after 2-3 days, he came and deposited some amount. He did not fulfill the 10,000 he had to pay. He paid 7,000, but that was fine. That was fine in this situation. That at least she got that. So you have to find out ways with whatever with whatever the resources are available. And I think marriage counselor is the best resource available in this time. With this permission to allow of technology, we can use mobile phones, WhatsApp, and be in connection with the other side and find out the solutions. So in family court, marriage counselor can call and convey the message.
Only one time, madam, what I feel the advocates are not also helping the litigants very well, and the litigants don't understand the website. They don't know the circular, what it is coming out day in and out, and they do not know is the date. So most of the times, who are going to the legal aid do not have the proper advocates to represent, or just worried about them only. How that we ensure that they, because your idea of giving ration to 280 family was very fabulous and very practical, madam. So that was a very innovative thing, which really, madam, I like. So my second question is about, madam. Madam, we go for.
I am unable to hear you.
Nitin, your voice is breaking. You're not audible.
Yeah.
Nitin, you'll have to repeat the question. You are not.
Yeah, I have unmuted, sir. I have unmuted. Sorry. Now I am talking about the distress warrant report. Now, madam, does not come in time by the police. So when we go for an execution, then what is the remedy we have? We have an order in the hand. Now, how we get the fruits of the order? Because maintenance we need every month. So how do we go about it?
Yeah. That is the situation we also face here. Yeah, that is the reality, that it's very difficult. I mean, to tell you, to my court, there is no bailiff attached. Actually, whenever there is need, we use the bailiff of the district court, and the summons, and it's very difficult. It's a task actually to execute summons and the warrant and the distress warrant. And many a times the report in the distress warrant comes as there's no property available, or the property which is there is not in the name of the husband. So these are the real ground challenges which we face. But I think patience is the answer, and you have to keep doing the same exercise a couple of times, and I think definitely the result will come. So yeah.
And the last question is about nowadays both spouses are jobless. That husband is also jobless and wife is also jobless. The personal loss for the maintenance, let us say Hindu marriage, and they go for the maintenance. Now, how do we balance the things in this case? Because the things are also very different in Mumbai right now. Earlier the fruits was at some price, onions were at some price. Now there is a really hike, and really there is a deduction in the salary of the people, and plus this. Then how do we balance this situation right now, madam? And how do we give justification? Even the husband needs money from a wife, and wife also needs money from the husband. Then how do we balance right now?
Yeah.
This is last question, and thank you, madam. Thank you.
Yeah. The best, I think, the solution is communication and being honest with the prevalent situation. So I mean, both the parties should understand the situation, and they should communicate and come to a conclusion. Now, I have seen in my courts that during this lockdown period, that many cases are getting converted. So people are anticipating now that the lockdown will increase and their life will be on hold. So it's better to finish this litigation, get out of the court proceedings, and decide once for all. So they are, communicating with each other, negotiating with each other, some less, some more, but let's finish this and I've seen and observed in the cases of mutual consent divorce now in my court. So they are, so those the parties, those who are really very practical and want a pragmatic solution instead of taking a stubborn stand. It is good to negotiate. I mean, husband knows the reality about the financial status of the wife, and similarly wife knows the real financial status of the husband. So they should be realistic, sit together, communicate, and find some solution which is feasible and which is workable. So communication, I think, is the answer, and the advocates can facilitate this communication between the parties.
Thank you, ma'am. We have Jodi Kanojia with a question. Jodi, would you please unmute and put your question? Jodi, are you there? She has posted in the chat column. Can I just read out, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Interim maintenance is passed by district court. However, stay was taken by husband in session court. So it is difficult for wife to survive with her child. How can she get her maintenance in this situation? Both are living in the same house till date.
See, there are in the fight of husband and wife, there is a lot of ego issues. I mean, and no, I'm not saying about this. I mean, it's a general statement that there are a lot of ego issues between husband and wife. And if suppose generally what happens is if stay is granted by the appellate court sees that some amount is deposited before admitting the revision of the appeal
as a condition for stay.
As a condition. So that is very pragmatic condition, that when the order which is challenged is heard, some relief is given to the wife. Now, as you said, that they are staying in the under one roof, again they have to find some solution to this. I mean, if order is stayed, then I don't think any other application, if moved by the wife, will yield any good. So it is for the wife's lawyer to convince the appellate court to give some relief till the order is decided on merit.
Now, whether the kitchen is also shared by them, and they are living together.
Yeah.
Justice
I'm not going to the other aspect whether the bedroom is shared.
Yeah.
But
Now I'll tell you.
A blanket order of stay should not have been granted.
Yeah.
In maintenance matters.
Yeah, I would share one case in Mumbai when I was working in the family court in Mumbai. A couple, same situation. There was a very acrimonious litigation between them for divorce. But as you know, Mumbai, there is a lot of space constraint, and the house is, staying in Mumbai is a difficult task. So they were sharing an apartment. So they were sharing the same flat but fighting. So similar applications in the court that I got 1 kg of sugar and half the sugar was used by the wife, and so then we sat and we prepared a chart, and they decided that this rack will be used by the husband, which will be under lock.
No, not only that. No, there are families where the monthly expenditure will be shared by them.
Shared.
With their income, they won't share. They won't put in a one hotspot. They will retain their income separately, and they will provide a particular amount.
Yes.
And if sometimes it is required more, there will be fight between them. Who has to share it? Who has to bear it?
Very right, sir. And so finally, I had to pass in a judicial order the timings of the use of kitchen. So 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. wife will use, and 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. husband will use the kitchen.
Like prayers in a church between warring factions.
We have Paras Sharma with a question. Paras, please put a question.
My question is, hello, can you
Yeah,
hear me?
you're audible.
So my question is, if the decree is passed by any foreign court and the marriage was done under the Hindu Marriage Act in India, so is it valid?
I mean, we have section in CPC a provision of comity that suppose say we don't have the ground of irretrievable breakdown of marriage in India as a ground for divorce, and the decree of the foreign court is on the same ground, say irretrievable breakdown of marriage, then in that case, if that decree is challenged in India, that can be challenged because we don't have that ground for divorce in India yet. So it depends on various factors and circumstances. So that can be challenged. If we don't have that ground available in India, that can be challenged here in India.
Thank you.
Ma'am, my doubt has come up. That is, the marriage was solemnized as per the, from India only they married. They went to the Middle East. Divorce was obtained under the personal law, under the Muslim law, in the Sharia law.
Mm-hmm.
To what extent that is, what do you call, that could be honored in India for that matter, implemented or rather exercised? Yeah.
I will have to see the facts and circumstances very minutely. Then I will be able to give any opinion on this.
No, as far as the Muslims are concerned, I think there is no court decree is required unless the girl files an application under the Dissolution of Muslim Marriage Act.
Yes.
And triple talaq is banned only in India.
So in Muslims also there are different sects. So there is a sect in, I think if I'm not wrong.
Ramkumar, one thing is there. It is easy to get a divorce in India. It is very difficult to get a divorce in Middle East.
Middle East, yeah. So they have their arbitration. So customary divorce also happens in Muslims, in the sects.
No, there also, even for granting that also, I think they will have to undergo a lot of procedure.
Yes.
Simply because they have decided and agreement has been entered into, Gula has been entered into, they won't accept it. They will have to undergo certain procedure, mediation, all those things will have to be done there also. Very difficult. It is not that easy here, as people are doing it here.
Ramachan sir, I'll just put the question in this manner. Is the divorce obtained in the law of a foreign country applicable or rather honored?
On a
ground which is not available here. On a ground which is not available.
No, you will have to go by section 13 of the CPC, where it says how the foreign decrees can be executed here. That can be validity of this under certain circumstances provided under section 13. It can be challenged. The CPC is applicable to family court, or the principles of CPC is applicable to them.
Yeah, section 13 talks about the committee of courts.
Absolutely. We have Advocate Selva with a question. Selva, can you just unmute and put the question? Go ahead. You unmuted yourself. You can put the question. Or else I'll read from the chat box. Ma'am, after settlement through court by deposit had given to wife and minor child, whether wife has right for maintenance till her next marriage and after, major child have any right from his father earnings and property? And after majority the child maybe.
Yeah.
Twofold question.
Yeah. Can you repeat please?
After settlement through court by deposit had given to wife and minor child, maybe the maintenance was deposit, I believe. Whether wife has right for maintenance till her next marriage and after, major child have any right for his father earnings and property.
What exactly is the deposit? Was it arrears or lump sum amount or whatever it is?
Selva is here. He is unmuted. Can you just come forward and clarify your question, Selva?
It is arrears of maintenance.
Yeah. If it is one-time permanent alimony, then maybe there are some restrictions upon wife to come to the court again to get the maintenance. As far as child is concerned, till minority, the child has right. Under personal law, daughters have right to claim maintenance from father till their marriage. But for son, till he is minor, he can claim. But even after divorce, the son will have rights in the property of the father if he has some property.
Justice Ramashan, sir, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am, please.
Yeah,
okay. Justice Ramashan, sir, you would have had occasion to deal with maintenance cases. regarding this COVID period, ma'am has taken us through the current scenario wherein new challenges are thrown up because of this extraordinary circumstances. What would be your reflections on that?
The difficulty will be the execution will be very difficult, even because you are not getting the assistance of process servers or somebody else. Family courts are restricted, and they will be depending on the police for execution. One. Secondly, even if it is there, as one of the participants has said, now I was about to put that question. Suppose in a case where you want to award maintenance to the wife who is not having any income, husband is also put in the same position now because he is interested, because the decision says you will have to, what you call, if you are a able-bodied person, you will have to make yourself search for employment and do it. If the employment is not available, what they will do?
Available. Earning capacity has come down.
Come down. No, he is prepared to work, but there is none to give any work. So that difficulties are there. But then, as Madam has said, that you will have to have some amicable form of settlement to overcome the situation, to have a permanent solution as to how this can be solved. By via media has to be done during this period, as some interim maintenance or some interim arrangements. That can be possible only if the mediation mooted by the lawyers, because unless the lawyer community also cooperate, because I have my own bitter experience as a member of the mediation committee. When it comes to the settlement in the family courts and other things, how things are going on. So everything depends. So the mindset of the lawyers, mindset of the people also will have to come. And sometimes, suppose it is due to strong ego problem, living in the same roof, sharing the kitchen, sharing the rooms, sharing the electricity, paying amounts, claiming rights. I can say right of use because of the present Domestic Violence Act says you will have to give the share household. They have got a right of residence, unless you provide an alternate accommodation. The first preference is to live in the shared household. Second preference is only the alternate accommodation being provided. In Bombay like places, providing alternate accommodation also will be very difficult. So the husband may be sometimes, I can't say it is suffering, it may be tolerating or maybe adjusting with the existing scenario and go on with the life till the final orders are passed by the courts. So that some practical difficulties are always available. Mediation also, now people are trying online. I do not know how far it is successful by applying the principle of mediation. That is, these are all the only practical methods that will be available, because unless you have got a physical sitting started, because they may not be able to allow people to come there. Even the entry is restricted for number of persons. So those, and keeping social distance in the mediation room also sometimes difficult. All those distance and the transport is also not possible for people to come. So it is a difficult situation. It is very difficult to say how, or no straightforward formula can be given as all these things can be tackled.
That in short is the position, I believe, sir. No straitjacket formula. It has to be from case by case. We have Vanitha with a question. Vanitha, please. Please put the question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
My question is decree of divorce pass on divorce. How many years after husband can marriage?
But the time limit is 3 months. 90 days. 90 days.
And if appeal is filed?
Appeal. No, if appeal is not appeal till appeal period, he'll have to wait. If no appeal is filed within 90 days, the any husband or wife, those who want to marry, can get married. If appeal is filed, then there cannot be any marriage. There will not be a valid marriage then, because the marriage is still in existence.
They will have to wait till the appeal disposal of appeal.
Yeah, till disposal of appeal.
Even in, I think, the one Supreme Court case where it happened that the ex parte order of divorce was set aside after the marriage between the divorce was obtained. They waited for a long time. Thereafter, an application to set aside the ex parte decree, ex parte order was filed after a long time. By the time the marriage is over, there are children in that. also. Ultimately, delay was condoned.
Yeah.
And the ex parte order was set aside.
In
Ultimately,
Hindu Marriage Act, the first appeal, they need, the husband or wife need only wait till the appeal period is over. It was over and he got remarried. Then an SLP was filed in the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court said, even the SLP period, he should have waited. And what happened was, that marriage was set aside. And he went back home with 2 wives.
That's the best punishment he can get. We have K. Shankararaman with a question. Sir, please put the question. You can unmute yourself and put the question. Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Exactly what the question I want to just answered by our Justice Ramos sir. In my case, sir, I got ex parte decree. And after 6 months, the husband got married a second time.
You just see 1967 Supreme Court. There's a decision.
Yes, but this case, they have filed a set-aside petition within time, but got the same returned. And after 6 months, they got the same number and the same was allowed. In the meantime, he got second marriage. Whether the marriage second time is valid or not,
that depends.
Because automatically he waited for more than 90 days.
Yes.
And the thing is, the respondent deliberately did not furnish the copy to me. If he would have served the
They are entitled to free copy. They are entitled to free copy.
Yes,
when a divorce is granted.
The set-aside petition. The other side,
I'm sorry.
You are telling that the husband did not get an advance copy.
Okay.
Yes.
Now,
in the meantime, he waited for 3 months, 6 months. Then he got married. So far, no set-aside petition was not served upon him.
Okay.
Now,
He will get a charge of bigamy free of charge.
Both of them are suffering.
A prosecution for bigamy free.
Definitely. Thank you, sir.
So, as we come to the close, we have Raj with a statement or a question. Raj, can you unmute and please put that? Oh, you got a, don't have a mic. Okay. Divorce, I mean, what is it? Are there plans for online hearings underway for family courts?
Yes. That is the need of the time now, that we will have hearings online. Now, I can share today one of the example which my colleague shared with me just yesterday. He is in Pune, and he was telling me that there was an application of mutual consent divorce filed by the parties, and one of the party was at some country outside India, and the wife was outside Pune. So when the matter came up for hearing online, it was they made an application. Both made an application that they both were ready for online hearing. So the judge said, okay, we'll do the hearing. And when the call was made for verification of the second motion for mutual consent divorce, the husband was in maybe US, and he was on video call, and he said, yes, I give consent, and I've reflected, and I still feel that I want to go ahead with this mutual consent divorce. And my colleague said that the wife was in Kolhapur. She was driving car when the call was made. So she said, okay, wait, I'll park my car. And she parked her car at the side of the road. And then she gave her consent for divorce, and divorce happened online.
On the road.
So now, on the road. So now this is the time. There are some advantages of this COVID-19 situation, that we are now going towards technology and its utmost, and the use, and these things are happening. That one is around the globe somewhere, and the other is somewhere different place, but then they both have access to justice.
No, I think that the Justice Ramasubramaniam, for the first time through video conference, the Supreme Court has granted mutual divorce.
Okay.
Reported in the papers. Because in a pending matter, joint petition was filed. So mutual divorce was granted from there.
I think Jayman Andrews is there in the forum. Yeah, Jayman. In one of our matters, mediation was directed to be had between the husband and wife with the mediation center, all through video conferencing, and the husband was directed to boot the expenses in a recent case by the Supreme Court.
That is normal, but through VC it is first time.
That's what I said.
Mediation through VC, and if some progress is there, Then
one
wait
party
for
was
the
in
family
Kerala,
court,
the
then
other
we
party
will
was
have
in Tamil Nadu, and the mediation center in Delhi.
Delhi.
No, I said one of the mediation trainers, master trainer, who is in Tamil Nadu, has sent me a message stating that for the first time she is doing the mediation through online. Then I told her, share the experience.
I will share, sir, soon. This date is fixed.
We have Vipula Naik was a question. Vipula, please unmute yourself and put the question.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, hello.
Please go ahead. Vipula, please. So,
some audio problem.
Audio problem. I think in one case, wife got divorced without alimony from Karnataka, but as she is in Mumbai, can she file a petition for maintenance in Mumbai? And will she get maintenance now as she cannot work due to health issues?
Divorced wife is a wife.
Till remarriage, section 125 says that she is entitled for.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, even in cases where she was earning earlier, but subsequently her earnings are not sufficient for the purpose of meeting the necessities. Then also, as a change of circumstances, she can file an application for maintenance. There is nothing wrong in it. No bar as such.
Correct. We have Advocate Suresh P from Calcutta. Please, Suresh.
Yes, sir. Madam, suppose a marriage between a foreign citizen and a man and a person of Indian origin, whether a petition before family court is maintainable in India?
Where is that man? Where is that man?
Under the Foreign Marriage Act.
Is he still abroad or in India?
Still abroad. They got married under the Foreign Marriage Act.
No, if it is registered under the Foreign Marriage Act, I think there is some provision for appeal also provided. Whether it will be treated under the Special Marriage Act or like that.
It is treated as a Special Marriage Act case.
I think there is some provision in the Foreign Marriage Registration Act.
It can be treated as Special Marriage Act, isn't it?
I think there is some provision because I am not sure about it because I was not exclusively dealing with the family matters. In a general thing, I have occasion to see these things. That's all.
It is maintained.
I think there is a provision.
There is a provision under Foreign Marriage Act 1969 about it. But if the marriage is registered where the marriage was solemnized, for say example in some other country outside India, if the marriage is registered there, then I don't think it will be possible to file an application here.
Okay. Right.
Okay, thanks.
We have Nitin with one more question. Nitin, please.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar, madam. Madam, my question was, do we have to really wait for 90 days, that is 3 months, in case of mutual consent? And right now you mentioned about that Pune and Kolhapur incident, wherein the wife was in the car and she has given the second consent.
But locus, that is not. Is it 90 days? 6 months? Is it not?
Can we have the first and second motion both on the VC?
Yeah.
Do we have to wait for 90 days in mutual consent? That is what it is.
Yeah.
6 months, is it not? Locus
90
penitentiary.
90 days is not waiting period for mutual consent divorce, because it is by consent, it is voluntary, because before giving the divorce by mutual consent, the court will verify that both the parties are giving consent voluntarily, and so there will be no waiting period of 90 days months. Because it is not appealable.
6 months.
But in other cases,
once divorce is granted, I don't think there is any waiting period. It's mutual consent. Next day itself, or while walking out of that court corridor, you can get married, I believe.
Yes, right. But if it is under personal law, then Hindu law, Hindu Marriage Act, then the waiting period is appeal period is 90 days. Actually, there is this technical, if you go by Family Court Act, if you take a divorce under family, the appeal period under Family Court Act is 30 days. And in personal law under section 28, it is 90 days. But there is a division bench judgment which has said that 30 days is too less because, you know, people want to get the certified copies. They have to consult their lawyers. They are not in the town or somewhere else. So there are a lot of social things and other things happening around.
Yes,
So
yes.
30 days is insufficient. So then finally 90 days is the time period for according to the Hindu Marriage Act section 28. So it's 90 days. But for mutual consent, next day they can marry.
No appeal will lie, is it not? Against mutual consent.
Because the waiting period is already over prior to the grant of the
It is not appealable. Is it appealable?
No.
Where the decree is obtained mutual consent.
It's by mutual consent, it's not appealable. We have Vipula with a question. Vipula Naik, please unmute yourself and put the question.
Hello, madam. My question is that divorce was been granted in Karnataka court, but my client is staying here in Mumbai, and she has not taken any amount during the alimony. And now at present her situation is like she has her health issues, so she wants money from her, and she's unmarried. Can she file a petition in Mumbai court, or she has to file it in Karnataka itself because she got the decree from that court?
No, she is filing under section 125 for maintenance. Then wherever she stays, she can file.
So presently
Okay.
she is staying in Mumbai. I think she can, according to you, she can file it there in Mumbai.
Yes. Other question is that her daughter is getting maintenance, but it is very less. Can I? Is there any provision that she can get it more money, because at present she is getting only some 8,000, and now she is a college student. She needs more money for her education and other things.
Change in circumstances is always there, available ground for seeking enhancement in maintenance under personal law as well as under section 127. Yes.
127.
And I would like to answer the earlier question about 90 days. I don't have the citation, but it's a judgment given by Bombay High Court, and the quorum is Justice Naresh Patil, Justice R.D. Dhanuka, and Justice Sadhana Jadhav. The judgment was pronounced on December 1st, 2016, and the party's name is Shivram Shetty versus Sharmila Shetty. So this is the case where the issue about 90 days or 30 days of appeal period and the waiting period after divorce is discussed. If you can find out this.
Thank you, ma'am. We have Elango say question. Elango, please, can you unmute yourself and put the question? Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Madam, it was a fantastic lecture. My doubt is, in a divorced case, a wife is receiving maintenance. Meanwhile, after some time, the wife got a better job and started earning a lot. In that ground, can a husband claim that for reduction of maintenance or non-maintenance?
127.
That also possible.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
So I think that is the end of the questions for the time being. And over to you, Prem.
Madam, it was simply a great exposition of the topic. And thank you so much. And I would also avail this opportunity to thank Justice Roshan Dalvi also for introducing you to me. And the verse you recited, you said it's from a Karnataka judgment. Actually, that's from Manusmriti, verse 9 of Manusmriti. And just see, what is said was a stark reality. Now, let me first explain myself before asking you one thing. Or if I don't explain myself, the thing is that it may appear like a purely partisan query. So it's the facts, first of all. As we know, many of us, we are all having, many of us would have sizable savings, and despite all this consumerism taking over the life and all, still there are a lot of savings. And no Indian in the middle class economic strata, or maybe above, they have become bankrupt in the past 3 or 4 months because of COVID. Still, men at this stage, they would decide not to provide the maintenance for the spouses and children under the semblance of the loss of income. First of all, taking undue advantage of this pandemic situation. And of course, even in case of what you said there, acrimonious divorce battles we are seeing, or orders for maintenance are being passed against the men. Now, maybe they would take it upon themselves to use it at this particular point of time so that they could square up the battle with a retaliation attitude, or something like that. And courts, of course, not working in its practical sense, and it is extremely difficult, and maybe it's expensive also to the wife to move the court at this point of time. And of course, men can plead penury or insolvency, refusing to realize that the wife and their kids, they would be merely pleading for their daily sustenance, and men would take advantage of this situation. There are men who can even say, who can even tell their kids, now stop staying with your mom, come stay with me, I will buy you everything. Can be like that. Maybe a cruel attitude, I can say. Even lawyers also are looking forward whether this COVID-19 could change the way the court battles are fought. And my opinion, it is going to get this acrimony, it's only getting going to get escalated rather than declining, and there will be a huge deluge of the maintenance matters pending and whatever that be. So that is an issue which we have on one hand. There may be genuine cases where the COVID-19 pandemic places the individuals or maybe their businesses under ever mounting financial strains, and in such matters, even though they are able-bodied, is it not necessary or indispensable to at least examine the implications for the spousal maintenance payments? What happens if one party is really unable to make the payments due to the loss of work or being furloughed? And we are regularly reminded nowadays that beating this pandemic, it's just like a marathon, it's not a sprint. So people aren't just looking at their finances now, they are staring how we are going to survive for the months to come. And being so, what is the situation for those whom COVID-19 directly impacts on the spousal maintenance? What's your take on that?
See, we will have to face this situation, and we are building upon this situation now. We don't have any correct answer on this, but as you said that yes, capacity of husband, capacity of the pair has been always the criteria when the alimony or maintenance is quantum is decided. So definitely, if the husband has gone insolvent and he produces evidence to that effect in the court, I don't think there will be any court who will say that you are able-bodied, so you have to pay. Yes, that maintenance is the personal obligation of the husband. He will still have to pay, but the quantum would be too less. And the status of the parties. Always it is stressed upon that the wife is entitled for maintenance according to the status. Now, if the status of the husband was in past something, but due to some situation or some contingency, the status has come down, the court will definitely keep this into consideration while passing any order. But all said and done, all the citations which I have said today says that it is the duty of the husband, it is the obligation, personal obligation of the husband to provide maintenance to his dependents, which means wife and children. Now, for example, a man of 35 years, he has nothing to, he has no work, no savings, no food in the house, and he has a 3-year-old child starving. What is expected? Now, keep aside the law, court, everything. We'll just see this situation that in a house, a father is there, 35-year-old young man with able body, and a child is. He will fend, he will do something, he will find out something and feed the child. It is his primary duty.
Even an animal does that.
Yeah. So this situation of COVID will not be taken as a defense, blatant defense that it's COVID-19 and I've lost everything and I will not pay anything. I mean, okay, you pay less. You pay according to your financial situation or the losses you have suffered due to COVID-19, but you cannot say no. I will not pay is not the answer to be taken. And that is what I feel.
I mean, is it? Would it be? Would it be right that we feel that the courts are under a what do you call foregone conclusion that anybody who takes up this defense is unnecessarily or taking advantage and not a genuine one at all?
No, there can be genuine defenses like this. COVID-19, somebody might have lost his job permanently, and he is under an order of maintenance. He may come to the court, prove that this is the situation he is facing, and he is unable to now pay this amount of maintenance which was ordered. So, okay, he can ask for decreasing the amount. Yeah.
Correct.
Definitely, yes, definitely. All this situation will be considered by the court. Court has to consider. It's not that only the law tilts towards women. It's not like that. It's a social maintenance is a social justice issue. So when we talk about welfare of a family, it is about husband, wife, and children. So welfare of husband is also equally important when we're talking about welfare of wife and children. So definitely court will consider this.
No, because one of the considerations is status and also how the wife was treated when she was living with the husband. So what will be the situation if the present situation, how wife will live with him? So that will be taken note of. That will be taken note of while fixing the amount.
Yes. Yes.
That is Dr. Kulbhushan's case, Supreme Court. Kulbhushan's case, how the wife was
and care.
73 SCC 129. Dr. Kulbhushan's case.
Okay. Before we end, I think Soundararajan has put the hand up. Soundar, do you have anything to say or ask? Please do.
Sir,
Sound.
Audio problem.
There is an audio. You'll have to unmute.
Hello.
Then, yeah.
Hello,
Please.
sir.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Sir, I have one doubt that husband is doing some business. The court order that how to maintain to his wife. Hello.
Okay.
Yes.
So in this instant, what happened? Husband facing some insolvency cases. So due to that, he's not able to pay maintenance to his wife. And what will be the consequences? It happened.
Impact of insolvency proceedings on maintenance orders.
If genuine.
Yeah, it's genuine. Yeah. Yeah, that is a situation with which the court will definitely consider. If all the documentary evidence is there, definitely the court will consider.
No, then also the able-bodied person capable of doing some work and earn will arise. Insolvency is only the capacity to discharge the debts. No property, etc.
Yeah, and
other liability. It's a permanent liability. When you marry, there is a permanent liability.
Right.
Yes.
That you will have to anticipate. You cannot forgo from that. In the case of that is my views. Insolvency is not a ground for denying maintenance to the wife.
Yeah. Maybe that will be considered in deciding the quantum, but that will not be the ground to say no. I mean, I again repeat the judgment of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, where in one of the judgment it was said that beg, borrow, or steal, you have to pay maintenance. So I said that this is a phrase used. I mean, court does not say go and steal and pay maintenance, but this phrase is meant that whatever the situation, you have to pay maintenance. You arrange some resources at your level and pay maintenance.
Don't put them to starve. After all, they are human beings.
All right. Thank you. That brings us to the end of the 88th session of Legal Empowerment Through Interaction lecture series. Today, we had a judge, a presiding officer, who not only writes judgment with a head, but also with a heart. It is wonderful to have persons like you in the justice dispensation machinery, because we always wanted a human touch or a human element in while discharging the duties as a presiding officer of a judge. We are deeply indebted to you and Justice Roshan Dalvi, especially because she introduced you to this platform. We are thankful to her as well. We are privileged by the presence, and we are indebted to Justice V. Ramkumar and Justice Ramakrishnan sir for your valuable presence and inputs, and to all of you, wonderful participants, for being part of this journey of empowerment and discovery. The journey will continue. Tomorrow, 3:30, we have Justice Manju Goyal with Ethics for Lawyers. So till we meet again, 3:30 tomorrow afternoon, please do take care and stay safe. Thank you.